Good. Bill was just telling like the best story that he can never tell on the overtime show. And it was like right at the best part, and then Adam hit live, so we had to stop talking.
Just froze.
Oh,
that's awesome.
Dang.
What's up, guys?
Follow up on that.
Oh yeah, Bill, have you been working on the intro?
I did. You want to hear it?
Yeah, give it a try, guys. This is the new format. Bill, take it away.
Let's pretend like none of this few seconds just happened. All right.
Okay.
You just found the most downloaded HVAC entertainment podcast in the world. Welcome to the HVAC Overtime Show, hosted by me, yours truly, Bill Russell. Chris Stevens here to my right, Adam Muffich over there somewhere, and normally it would be Joe somebody, but instead we got Mr. Don Gillis from Chemours. Is that how you say it? Chemours.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Can you really call it the most downloaded podcast? What did you call it?
The most downloaded HVAC entertainment podcast in the world, Mr. Stevens.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
Moving. Let's get into the show. Let's get into it. You know how I know that? Because I made it up.
Oh, man. Oh,
that's how I know that.
Yeah. Welcome to the show, Don. How you doing today?
Really good. Thanks for the invite. Yeah, I'm enjoying it. I like that. I like that pre warm up before the show starts, and the show's awesome.
Didn't quite
I'm
get
doing
vocals. Great. The vocal exercise is done before the show, but
we have some other ideas for that intro too. So stay tuned.
Actually, we don't. That's literally it. That's the only thing I've written down for it.
So you just totally dismiss the idea that I've been talking about forever.
Like as Zach says, I am the fourth most downloaded. No, you're probably like second or third at the very least, Zach. Give yourself some credit. Honestly.
For sure.
I agree.
Hey, we got lots of great people in the chat. Our buddy Rich, GT350R's in there.
Jennifer Manzo. How do you guys say that name?
HVAC Chick.
Manziano. Manzo.
Chicks. She's from HVAC Chick. So that we got Jason Johnson. Tilapia's in here.
Don't forget our little buddy Luke and his big buddy Randy watching from somewhere in the trailer hood.
Somewhere.
He said he's got some relatives or somebody that came over tonight and he's entertaining them, so he won't be watching live.
Oh, bummer.
Unfortunate.
Yeah.
Bummer. So what is going on with everybody? You guys have a long week, or is it an easy week for you?
Valentino, what's up, man? It's been an easy week for me. Kind of slow. I drove a lot. Went to Cleveland, Pennsylvania times. Lots of crazy stuff. Nothing too crazy though.
What about you, Don? Anything special this week?
Nothing really. I was down in Tennessee for the PHCC. They had I was down there and went to Atlanta and went to Macon, Georgia, and they have an academy down there. So I spoke to a bunch of owners on A2Ls, and real light week, short week. Came back after I went to their expo, and just got in late last night. So it was pretty easy. Short.
You said the PATC?
PHCC. Plumber, heating, air conditioning contractors.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've always wondered about that show because I've never been. I mean, how much air conditioning is there? Is it mostly plumbing?
It used to be. I got a little history lesson when I was down there. I guess a handful of years ago, a gentleman based in Atlanta, Georgia, got Rheem involved. So now Rheem's affiliated with them, and hopefully I can say that with you guys. But so I judge at their 4-year apprentice program every year, and it happens to be in Cleveland this year, by the way. They have Rheem donates all the rooftop units. So last year, that was one of my stations on recovery. Yeah. So when they came involved, it really got a good boost. And years ago, I didn't know much about it. When we spoke at RSES nationally, they always kind of split the forum. They paid for everything. So I really didn't know a lot about them at the time, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Real quick, I can't imagine that you people in the chat don't know who Don is, but for anybody who's watching, anybody that's just tuning in for the very first time, a couple of things real quick. We are the HVAC Overtime Show. You can go buy our crap at the www.hvacrovertime.com website. Also, check out the Facebook group by the same name. And Don, want to introduce yourself? I mean, obviously you're Don Gillis from Chemours, like I said earlier, but like, why are you who you are? Why do you work for Chemours? Why are you here? What's going on in your life? Anything you want to on about?
Yeah. Well, first of all,
maybe throw in where babies
Adam
come from too. Good God, Bill. Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Do you have any like home videos of, I don't know, conception from your parents when you were like just coming down the pipe, if you know what I'm saying?
Oh, God.
Good God,
I'm going to be
Bill.
like Chris. I'm going to lose my train of thought the whole time through this.
Yes,
I can see it already.
Who are you, Don, and why are you here?
Stay focused, guys.
Yeah. So the reason I'm actually here tonight is because of Adam. Adam and I and Chris Hughes had dinner one night. Where were we at, Adam? I don't remember where we were at.
Las Vegas. Yeah, I don't remember. It was like a nice Mexican restaurant, right?
Yeah, I don't remember was it at Esco? It was at Esco, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So and we got talking, and I told him I liked the show, and he said you ought to come on sometime. Yada yada yada. So who I am is I was in the field like y'all for quite a few years. My oldest son is actually a licensed contractor also, and but anyways, spent about 24 years in the truck. The last 7 years or so, started getting into some training. Got with Emerson about 6 years ago. Did most all their training. I guess I was affiliated with most of it. The compressor teardown. I taught a lot of the CO2, the hybrid carbons, and all that stuff too. Got real familiar with the A2L refrigerant. Fast forward, Esco approached me, or Esco, Chemours chemistry. That's ours, by the way, because some people just like chewy, and I did too, by the way. So, but anyways, Chemours is a spinoff of DuPont of 2015. So, not that I wanted to do a sales pitch here, but everything that they own, the Freon brand name and all that stuff. So that came with part of the deal. So I work with all refrigerants now, basically.
Nice. So do you know of a guy named Trevor Matthews?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Spent a lot of time with Trevor up in Brantford, Canada. We used to do a lot of training together. Yeah. So I helped Trevor on board their cost class up in Canada many, many moons ago, and their Copeland technical specialist stuff. We did a lot of CO2 training also, obviously. Invited him to the first Brian Orr symposium back when Brian wanted you to speak for 8 hours. Now you can't get a 45-minute slot. I remember speaking 4 hours, and Trevor did a 4-hour teardown class, and it was like his kids were running the cameras and the microphone. It was real.
I was there that one. And, that was a good one.
Yeah, it was cool. It was very cool. Yeah,
it was
for sure.
It's really awesome to see more trainers like yourself. I consider you a trainer. Obviously, you do more than just that, but I mean more trainers. Similar as in Trevor too, like coming out on social media is what I'm saying. I think it's a great thing to help the industry because people pay so much attention to social media. So to have people like yourself, to have people like Trevor and many others, it's really cool.
So we were talking, myself, Chris, and Don in New Orleans, because we just hung out again a few weeks back, right? And it was kind of cool. We were talking about social media. Who was it, Chris or Don? One of you guys had the idea, let's just walk down the street of New Orleans and talk to people about their air conditioning.
That's funny. I saw those videos too.
That was
Chris, I think. Yeah, it was great. That was so awesome.
It was Don. See, Don's got a great voice. So he like walked up and he sounded, like a gentle father figure to somebody. Hey, would you mind if we just have a couple questions to ask you, And then after Don's like, I got to get back inside for my session or whatever. Me and Chris were walking around like, hey, can we talk to you about air conditioning? They're like, no, get away from me.
No, you creep. Hey, you over there.
Yeah.
You moist? You want to talk about it? Come here.
Oh, God. But I did see the one did make me laugh, whichever one I saw where they were asking the lady about her air conditioner. And then she's like, yeah, it's a window unit. Okay. All right. Oh,
yes, I was there for that one. I was in the background. That was a good one. Yeah.
Oh.
That's a great idea, though.
It is.
I mean, that
it is a great idea.
Like a series.
But I mean, in all honesty, ideas like that come out of something that was purely about fun.
Spur of the moment.
Are the best. It was purely about fun, and you guys had a good time with it. Nobody, it's a great thing, and that can succeed if that can continue, in weird way between, however many of you there is. But it'd be cool if you guys can all continue to do that.
The next time we're all together, like maybe the symposium or AHR, whatever it is, we should do something similar. Just hit the streets.
I love it.
I
thought it was so cool. Yeah. No, Bill, you're exactly right. Yeah.
I'm gonna say a weird fact here too. The odds of actually the four of us right here making it to the symposium and all staying in the same place is better than Joe ever even meeting any of us.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
Because Joe will never make it to the symposium.
No, he's not allowed out of the state of Canada.
Yep.
I call it a state. Yes, I do.
I don't even think he lives in Canada.
Don, I know like everyone, like the hot topic right now, you've been traveling around the country talking about A2Ls, right?
Yes.
How is
a lot of A2L.
what is the biggest misconception that everyone is scared of and terrified? Oh no, A2Ls.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm scared of. I don't want my refrigerator to blow up and blow my legs off like I saw in that one video. Okay. I don't need robot legs right now.
Cue the explosion noise.
Yes. I mean, that is a big fear. A lot of people seem to think that things are just going to explode and it's going to be a nuclear explosion.
I was talking to Jason Objute the other day, and he was saying like a lot of times when he's talking at these events, people come up to him and say, well, it's half propane. There's half propane. He's like, no, there's no propane in it. And they like argue with him back and forth. And is that something that you hear too, Don?
Yeah, so that's the first thing I was going to say. The biggest misconception, I didn't know this being at Emerson or Copeland, that never got brought to my attention. When I came here with a month, that was kind of an inside conversation, like, where did this all start from? And I said, I had never heard that before, but sure enough, quick throughout my travels. I mean, I try to be real careful not to offend anyone. Hopefully you know that about me. Yeah. So I was at a branch somewhere. I can't remember what state it was, but they introduced the guy. I was behind the counter waiting for someone to get off the phone that they were going to introduce me to. Anyways, they said, hey, we want you to meet this guy, Joe or whoever. He's been here like 30 years. He's our refrigerant specialist, and no harm to him at all. I mean, I'm not beating the guy up, but he says, he gets off the phone, he turns around, I go, hey, I'm Don, yada, yada, yada. What's the biggest question you're seeing at the counter? He said, they're really concerned about the hydrocarbons in the refrigerant. Now, this is the refrigerant expert. And again, I'm not making fun of the guy, but this is how much misconception there is. And that's repeatedly happened throughout my travels. The other one is you all know this because you're very knowledgeable, but there is always a big shocker when I get to the point you're not going to be putting A2L refrigerants in existing equipment. That is another misconception, that they're going to be able to do that. So, so anyways, that educating part alone is tell him that there's not hydrocarbons, and then comparing the flammability testing, I think kind of relieves some of that anxiety, if you will. So
it's was it? I'm trying to remember where I saw the it might have been during your session at ESCO, but I saw like the flammability testing and the difference, why it actually is considered an A2L. And what do they call it? The flame, like the distance the flame travels in a certain period of time. I don't know what they call it. There's a name
for it. The heat of combustion. The heat of combustion. And so it's less than
but you're talking about
centimeters per second.
If there was a leak, all the stars aligned and it caught fire, if that fire was able to like spread far enough to actually do damage, is that what you guys are talking about?
It literally, if I could share the picture, literally they work out of this 90-degree, this piece of pie, if you will. Mm-hmm. That's always been the ASHRAE standard 34 testing. If it breaks that crescent breaks that 90, if you will, it then becomes another category. Years ago, up until like 9 years ago, it was an A1, A2, A3. Okay, A3 being propane or butane, but A2, there's actually an A2. We just don't talk about it. Well, this flame was so lazy, if you will, or just broke that line barely, that they had to literally make a new classification. That's why it's an A2L for low flame ability. In fact, fun fact, ammonia used to be a B2, but when they classified this new A2L, they actually looked at that flame and said, well, if that's an A2L, then we're a B2L, and now they're classified as a B2L. So, I mean, I try not to play it down. It's a slippery slope where you don't want to play it down like, oh, it won't be an issue at all, because you're inevitably you're going to get somebody to put something in an existing system that it doesn't have the safety sensors. So yeah, so I kind of watch what I'm, how you word that, but I try to bring the fear out of it.
Yeah. There's a lot of apprehension, and I hear it on the social media side from people too. Now I work with A3s, R290 on a regular basis, which there's much higher potential, but even with R290, it's not as bad as people make it out to be. But
I mean, like real life, has anybody ever heard of, besides the I don't know if it's a TikTok video or like a YouTube video, whatever it was, where the lady's refrigerator actually did explode? Like, besides that one example, have you guys ever heard of like any other examples?
That's not an A2L though.
Yeah, that would have been an A3, but still.
Butane, right? Yeah, I guess it was butane, wasn't it?
Butane and R290 or isobutane and R290 are the two A3s. So hydrocarbons.
But besides that one example, has anybody heard of any other examples of anything actually ever happening?
Not because of the refrigerant, but I can remember many stories of people, having flame outs just because working on a normal system, when they heated up the oil just enough and it sprayed out.
Oh yeah.
You've heard that. I've heard that more.
Oil logging and
you blow a terminal and then the oil ignites. I've had that where I popped the disconnect in, it like shoots up like woo.
But so the point, I'm not trying to say that the A2Ls are all going to explode like that. The point I'm trying to make is that I haven't heard much about A2Ls, anything bad happening. Just people being afraid of it is really what I've heard. So,
yeah, I think the biggest thing right now is what I'm seeing is we had a much longer, which, if you will, to go from R22 to 410A, those pressures in the world, the BOE and all that stuff. This, because of the EPA, it's coming quicker and faster. And honestly, 7 years ago, whatever it was, and I started talking about A2Ls right when I came on board with Emerson. I got educated on that, the hydrocarbons, the CO2. It was a deer in the headlight look. You were lucky if 2 people in the whole class of 40 raised their hand if they're working with 290. Yeah. Now that literally snowballed before I left Copeland. Now, like half the class, like you said before we started this, and the A2Ls, I was training trainers 2 years ago that just had no idea. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, it's really coming quick. We're just now teaching the wholesaler levels and the manufacturers and the, what's this going to look like. So,
I mean, once you get over the apprehension of working with like the A2L, the A3s, any of these hydrocarbons, flammable refrigerants, really, it's all basically the same procedures for the most part after that, right? I mean, maybe a pinch off tool here and there, leaving on some service ports, but I don't know. Am I missing something? Everything else pretty much lines up the same.
And I would say that most, and we kind of talked a little bit about before the show too, most of the best practices that we already have in the industry, that we've had in the industry for a ridiculous amount of time, are the same best practices that we're being told to use on these new systems that have, mildly flammable or flammable refrigerant. I mean, the best practices in the industry haven't changed, and it's just a matter of actually following those.
So, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was saying, I mean, we've forgotten a lot. We have, as an industry, we've forgotten a lot of the best practices and why we had them, because we had forgiving refrigerants and forgiving oils, that could tolerate a little moisture, that can tolerate not being 100% refrigerant. And, I mean, it wasn't right, but it kind of worked. But now, you can't, you just got to follow those best practices. That's the biggest thing.
So before the show, Don, we talked a little bit about tools. I know a lot of people are concerned. I got to buy all new tools. I need a new recovery machine, a new vacuum pump, new gauges, new this, new that. Can you touch on that at all for us?
Yeah, I'll do my best. I'll share with what I know, and that is, like, everyone knows and is seeing this for a year or two, whether it be TruTech tools or you can go to AHR's tool list and what have you. Most of the manufacturers have been converting for some time, and they say A2L qualified. But in all honesty, if you go to their websites, what I'm learning is they, like I was saying before the show, unlike cars, we don't buy new recovery machines every year. So I'm going to use Appian as the example because that's who shared their story with me. But according to them, pretty much all the manufacturers, their competitors, are doing the same thing. So they're testing that last year's model or 3-year-old model that they're still selling. And there you go. So they're testing them, and here's what they're doing: they're pressurizing the recovery machines beyond what the seals and the O-rings will hold to see if there will be an explosion. They are pressurizing them. They blow the O-rings and the seals, and nothing happens. But what I was really intrigued, as I told you earlier, was they're not even using A2L refrigerants. They're using A3 propane-like refrigerants to actually do this test. So nothing internally is changing. But if you modify something, the one thing they really wanted to point out to me, if you don't buy that OEM switch, that on and off kill switch or whatever, and you try to modify it in a way, then Katie bar the door, all bets are off. So, but nothing internally from what he told me is changing in those units. So what you pulled up was great because I've received like 3 of those in the last 2 weeks of manufacturers wanting me to put that on, one PowerPoint with all of them that are showing these bulletins that are going out. But if you really want to know, go to their websites and you'll be able to see, okay, my model number's fine. It's good. So just and there might be more information out there that I'm not aware of, but that's what I know now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen? I honestly, for the life of me,
there he goes.
DTE years ago doing some work on a warranty cooler of some sort, and it was in one of their labs, and they were using it for, I don't know, cooling down different chemicals and gases and whatnot.
Max headroom over here. You're totally frozen. We're hearing like every third word.
How about now?
Better sure.
Now. All right. Well, so I was at DTE years ago working in a refrigerator in their lab, and I don't remember what kind of gas was running in this system, refrigerant wise, but it had an explosion proof compressor. It was the weirdest thing I'd ever seen. Like, it was like just wrapped in this armor and like just this beefy looking compressor. I'd never seen one before or since. Have you guys ever seen one of those, played with one of those? Any idea? No idea.
You're intriguing me right now though. So I'm going to definitely look that up. Explosion proof compressors. I'm assuming that there was probably some sort of a cascade unit and they were using a lot of flammable refrigerants because they'll have multi-component refrigerant.
No, this was like a 5 foot tall self-contained cooler or freezer. I don't remember, but it wasn't cascade or anything. It was very odd.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. Sometimes in those facilities, I've done a little bit of medical work. You see some really interesting stuff. So, and it's really intriguing.
I'm just gonna not move so you guys think that I'm frozen again.
There you go. That works really good. See, instead of Joe being here today, we got Bill in his frozen image.
I can't find it. Sorry.
It's a tough day for the fiber optic internet.
Yep.
You guys got a lot of activity in the chat room. I never see this end of it. This is crazy. There's a lot of people tuning in. Yeah.
A lot of great people too. Yeah.
I see a bunch of faces or names I recognize. Yeah.
Yeah. The whole social media community is pretty neat. I mean, when you really think about it, you think about some of the good Facebook groups and the amount of knowledge that's being shared on the daily. It's so awesome.
There's a lot of good, but a lot of bad too, right?
Yeah, there's some bad in there too. But like, when did you get involved on, like, when did you start paying attention to the social media side for HVAC and stuff? Like, when did that, were you like message boards before Facebook and stuff? Because like I did the message boards before Facebook.
Yeah. So I did, the HVAC, what is it? Talk or
HVAC Talk.
Yeah. So but my biggest thing, because I'm getting older, obviously, I swore off Facebook my whole life up until 3 years ago. So I literally just got on Facebook about 3 years ago, and it was for personal reasons. So anyways, LinkedIn, I go back as far as 16 years, even though that it's not what it is today.
Yeah.
I've been posting spring tune-ups and fall
Okay.
PMs for years and years. I think I just saw the other day where I just surpassed like
I feel like that's
$16,000.
the equivalent of you doing the same thing on MySpace.
Yes, yeah, yeah. I never had a MySpace thing either. I missed all that. I don't know why. You guys are doing this. It's cool that you can do what you're doing here, because quite honestly, towards the end of my career, I was a service manager for 8.5 years. Not that I was anything special, but you're always worried about something. You're always putting out fires.
Yep.
Somebody didn't answer their call, and my wife and I ran many a service calls through the years together on 4th of July, and just those kind of things. So it's cool that these podcasts are set up that you have time to be able to plug and play, like come up real quick and do these kind of things, because we never had that. Just a brief story here. I always tell this story when I'm, traveling with a friend or whatever. I had a technician that was very average one time, and hopefully he's not listening, but he's a great guy, and he was very, very average. And he was a computer geek, if you will. And I didn't know this, and I might have shared this with Adam already, but anyways, I didn't know that smartphones had just recently come out, but he stopped calling me. Like every other day, I wasn't getting a call like, hey, show me, this is what's going on. We did a lot of geothermal then. Anyways, he shows me his phone one day, and it just blew my mind. I had to have one. But really, smartphones really, really changed the world. I mean, he went from here to like just the best technician I'd ever seen in my life, because he knew how to research stuff. And that's what we all do now. That's the world that we're growing up to now. And so anyways.
It's almost getting to the point where one could, start as an apprentice and really learn a lot from the internet. And I've always been an advocate for schools. Like I really am an in-person school, but I mean, you could learn so much. I mean, if you're an intuitive person, you could. I
would venture to say I have probably learned like at least half of what I know now, which isn't too much, but I would say at least half of what I know now to arrive at my destination or arrive at where I am in life right now from YouTube. Like specifically, like Chris was one of the first that I started watching. Some of the old school guys too, like Jim Pettinato, and I mean it was literally like my schooling. I would either look on YouTube for stuff I'd ran in previously that day, or stuff I was having problems with, or just general curiosities. But it was, and still is, such a great resource. Like you could almost skip a majority of school. Just go to YouTube.
Well, I mean, I like school for the fundamentals, and then I think, but I bet you could definitely learn a lot from the internet.
I bet you we could take a curriculum, mold it with like Chris Stevens videos, and it would be the best school in the United States. In Canada and maybe Australia.
Maybe Canada, but I don't know about the US. So
somebody just put in the chat, nothing like real life. And that brings me to Chris's videos. When I first seen Chris's videos, man, I just thought, and I know there's other people doing that, and I don't want to miss anyone, but man, that's what really drew me to your videos, Chris. They were so real world, and I really enjoyed them. Yeah.
Well, thank you. I try to make them. When I first started making videos, I used to try to make them absolutely perfect. And I would feel really guilty after I made the video, maybe for like the first 2 or 3 videos. I'd be like, well, I edited out that mistake because I could do it, but then I started to realize like, no, stop. I got an imposter syndrome thing. And it's like, just show it like it is and do your best and show people that you're real. And that's what I try to do. It's just do my best and try to recognize.
By the way, if anybody out there is wondering where Chris got all his fancy duds at, his hat and his shirt, you can get those at where, Chris? Where can people buy those?
Why are you plugging my website? HVACRvideos.com.
Because it might be awkward if you do it every week. So I'm helping you out.
Bill must have a list of things. I guarantee. Show me your list, Bill. You're reading from a list, bro. Show it to me. Look at that. He's got a whole list of things. He just knocked off one thing he had on his list.
He's crossing them off too. He's doing this. This is like he's a true host now.
Yep.
He's leveled up.
I'm trying to follow in the footsteps of Bill Spone.
Oh,
he is my broadcasting mentor. You guys don't know that.
Anyone in the chat that hasn't been on Bill Spone's podcast, probably a good portion of you have not, but I have, Chris has, and I was amazed because leading into the podcast, I got like such a professional email laying out the timeline, links. You're going to expect another email from me. We could have a phone conversation, discuss the topic. Let's get everything set.
Wait. Chris has been on the Bill Spone podcast. You have been on the Bill Spone podcast.
Yep.
I have not been on the Bill Spone podcast yet.
No.
So are you e-begging right now to get on Bill's podcast?
I mean, I'm not e-begging. I mean, come on, Bill.
Getting back to my point, the way we run our show is it's like, hey, 20 minutes before we start, I Facebook message Don Gillis a link to the show. I click this.
and what it had the wrong time or something too.
Well,
so
that
like
wasn't my fault. It was a StreamYard issue, not a
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so we're super professional over here.
I mean, we're getting there.
We're real. We're real. There you go.
Real.
That's exactly how it is. Oh,
it's
man.
Like, if we were a food truck with no name on the side of the food truck, we're just like, we just sell whatever, like whatever we got that day. Just like, I don't know, what do you want? You want a hamburger? That's Thursday, maybe. I don't know. So, we got some chips right now. You want chips? We're a food truck with no name.
You know, Don, with you've been in the industry for a while. Are you recognizing? I'm seeing a lot of people right now that are afraid of obviously the A2L refrigerants. They're afraid of digital gauges. They're afraid of and it's kind of baffling to me. You know, it's just kind of something that we all have to overcome. I mean, there's people out there saying, you know, I'm never going to work on a flammable or even mildly flammable refrigerant. I just won't do it. It's like, you got to
I've talked to some older technicians who are like, hey, now's the time to get out. I'm done. You know what I mean? This is too crazy. I don't want to deal with this anymore.
But I don't think it's as crazy. I don't know. Am I jaded? Is it? I don't think it's that crazy.
I don't want to deal with this anymore. They're just going to retire because they're so afraid of it.
Yeah.
You know, what I've noticed with all the travel we do, you know, as you all know, I think I do somewhere between 36, 40 weeks and have done for quite a few years now. It to me, sometimes, not to pick on any one area, but a lot of times it seems regional. People really set in their ways, and it doesn't matter if they're 25 or 45. It just seems like they're being taught that way. You know what I mean? Where you get, you know, Bill mentioned earlier unions up in Michigan and what have you, but you know, wherever it is, it really depends on, I think, the surroundings. Some people do, you know, some of the wholesalers in the area. That's a big factor, you know. But I for whatever reason, I adopted very early with digital gauges. I think I bought my first digital gauges literally like almost 15 years ago now, or whenever they first came out. I remember I paid $400 and some for it. The wholesaler gave me a deal because he wanted me as the service manager to own some of them so I could help sell them, you know, by accident is what he was trying to do. So, but then when they came out with the little, I don't own them, but you know, where you put the Bluetooth, the gauges on the things like you probably all have. I don't own a pair of those, but man, I was just fascinated by that. I thought that was the coolest thing since sliced bread. Anything to make your life easier, whether it's Copeland mobile apps or any apps out there. I mean, it's such it's so easy. Why not take advantage of it? And
do you think that's what scares some of these guys about the new age stuff is like it's too easy, or they're afraid of like, well, if it's too easy, then everybody thinks they can do it, and then I'm not as important as I think I am.
There's something there. I think there's something there. Is what you said.
If you have them in a classroom and you can take them off to the side, and I've done this many a times, 55, 60, 65-year-old guys, they love it. If you give them a minute and make sure you build that trust up, that you're not going to call them out or make fun of them or anything. Like, I like to make fun of myself. I am the dumbest guy in the room kind of attitude. You know what I mean? So if you get them one-on-one and show them how easy it is, and then, hey, I can even do this, and I'm not an expert, you know what I mean? Then once they get it, that's it. You know, they just need someone to take the time to do it with them.
So my first set of digital gauges, I internet advertising. I saw Jim Bergman when he was still part owner in True Tech Tools. He was making a video with the Field Piece digital gauges. I somehow found that on YouTube, and then I bought everything Field Piece, but you know, went from there. But it was kind of funny how I found them was just watching YouTube videos. But with the digital gauges, what they've done for me was they helped me to understand more. I learned from the digital gauges because I knew what subcooling was. I knew what superheat was. I was never big on the charts that if subcooling's high, superheat's low. I was never big on those formulas of figuring out things. But when I can see the gauges and I can watch the system operate, and I can watch what happens with the subcooling and the suit. It just helps you to visualize things. For me, helps me to understand it. It's almost like watching an interactive video.
And that's another good point you make there, Chris. I don't want to change the subject too much, but I want to point out what you said there about you first saw him on YouTube. Like, that's another great thing that YouTube is good for, is like showing me new tools. Like, actually, one of Chris's videos recently, I just learned that you can get an MC cable cutter. You know, like the little tool thing. I didn't know that was a thing before. Like, call me stupid or whatever, but
no,
like, that's the first time I've ever seen one of those. And the same with the digital gauges. The first time I ever saw those was on a YouTube video as well.
Yeah,
but it's amazing.
Yeah, so, it is.
Can I change the subject for a moment?
Yeah, go for it.
I was going to ask Don, I know you were doing a lot of training on, CO2 and compressors and all that. How did that even come about? How did you move into that?
So it was just by chance. I was trying to reinvent myself from being a service manager. I was burnt out. I don't know if any of you know my weight loss story or not. I was almost 400 pounds. I was losing my hair. My blood pressure was through the roof. I was smoking. I was completely.
You mean having a great time?
After about 8.5 years. Yeah, you know how it is. After 8.5 years of doing that, we were pretty high volume. I was dying and didn't even know it. So I reinvented myself. I went into territorial sales for about 2 years. And it was okay, but it really wasn't who I was. You know what I mean? But nothing against sales, don't get me wrong. But a friend of mine reached out that worked at Emerson, and I live 45 minutes from the Copeland plant in Sydney, Ohio. So I was born and raised here, and I've drove by that plant for my whole life, basically. I have friends of mine work in the factory and what have you. So they reached out and said, hey, here's the deal. This opening's coming up. It's a great opportunity, but you'll have to travel about 40 weeks a year. And I was on the road all the time. I mean, who haven't of us with kids haven't went to a ball game? I did it my whole life with pipe dope on my face and came late. You know what I mean? That was just the life we lived. Right. So I said, I went to my wife. I married when I was 18. It was 41 years ago. I said, Patty, here's the deal. And she goes, Don, you know what? I know what type of person you are. If you love teaching, and if you don't do this, you're going to sit around the rest of your life and regret not doing it. So that's how it came about. And I worked my butt off.
Your wife supported your dreams and goals?
Yes, yes. It's funny. Jen in the chat thing said something about women and stuff like that, and I see that brought up a lot. My wife started helping me in the field literally when she was laid off at times in the field. I mean, my wife can run 220 disconnects and stuff. She knows line and load. She knows low voltage. She's does great sheet metal work, you know what I mean? And she enjoyed it. I mean, the guys loved working around her. And anyways, yeah, she's a good stick.
I think
really
that
good. Yeah.
And she's doing a good job of helping to raise awareness and bring the whole women in HVAC thing to be a little bit more.
Yeah, she's been traveling with you. Huh? I was lucky enough to sit down with. She was with us at the dinner with Chris.
Yeah, she had some issues with her knee. A surgery didn't go well. So long story short, a little early to retire, but she just, she doesn't want to get another knee replacement. So basically she retired. And now I have the benefit of taking her with me, which is always more enjoyable because we've done everything our whole life together, basically. So, yeah, whenever she's got free time, I take her with me every chance I get.
Yeah. Me and Bill are just texting each other, on our private.
Yeah. Super private chat.
We're talking about how both of us would love bringing our wives with us.
Yeah, I'd bring my wife, but as soon as I was done fixing it, she would just tell me everything I did was wrong. And I just fixed it.
Bill, that has happened with me. I want to be brutally honest here. I'm very transparent. Don't get me wrong. Patty has told me I've done something wrong more than once.
You forgot the Schrader port caps, and why is one of those Schrader cores blue and the other one's black? They don't match. You got to change those out. God damn it, woman. I'm out of sandwiches.
Oh man, sometimes they inside jokes go way too far.
Yeah.
Oh man,
we live sad lives.
Yes. See, unfortunately, we have, and Don got to hear a little bit of it, but we have a lot of interesting conversations, and we can't share them. So
So some, like when they make a Hallmark movie about an HVAC guy, it'll be Don and his beautiful magical wife.
Yep.
And we'll all watch it. And Dean Cain, I'm sure, will be like a supporting actor because he's in all those movies.
Dean Cain. That's funny.
You could see it.
Oh, go ahead.
I kind of want to change the subject a little bit. You had mentioned on your weight loss journey. And those, like, I'm a big advocate of guys in the field, like staying healthy, getting healthy, improving themselves physically, mentally, educationally, whatever it is, like grow. Like, so you were saying, you were up to 400 pounds, you said?
380 was my worst. Yeah, I've got some incredible pictures that if you saw me, my neck, literally, there was no chin or anything like that. I mean, I've went down, honestly, about 2 or 3 pant sizes. I was 80 or I was very, very heavy and very, very large, and had to ask for the extension strap to sit on the plane. It was quite embarrassing, and I limited myself what I could do. So it got to be a pretty big struggle. And so anyway, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I felt like a coward, but I tried for 20 years doing everything I could. And finally, a good friend of mine who's in the field, we were talking one day, and he told me that he had a weight loss surgery about 10 years ago before I had met him. And he's still in the trades. And I said, "You're kidding me." And he got his phone out. We were having dinner in some city, and he showed it to me, and it blew my mind. And his unfortunate side was that he was like 5'2", where I'm 6'5". You know what I mean? So he was really big. Yeah. So I've always had the benefit. So anyways,
take a picture of him, you can't tell if it's horizontal or vertical.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So I'm one of those guys that cuts 3 times or measures 3 times and cuts once. I do that, everything I do. So I researched, and I went and did it, and I got what they call a sleeve, and it changed my world, man. I mean, I stopped taking blood pressure medicine. I don't, and slightly off topic, by the way, before I forget this, Bill, Chris, even Adam, I really, really appreciated some of the stories you guys shared about depression and anxiety and stuff like that in the trenches. And also a shout out to, Brett Wetzel too. You guys, I love that you did that, because that's real, man. That is really, really 100%. Real. And there's nothing wrong with being real like that. So a little corny, a little sappy, but I like that a lot. So
I thank you. I mean, it's awesome.
With the sleeve surgery that you had there, were you able to, I mean, I've heard horror stories of people will get that done, but not really make the lifestyle habit changes that they need to make, and they just put that back on, go right back into the same bad habits. Did you experience any of the bounce back, or were you just like, set it and forget it, let's roll?
It's I don't want to say it's a battle, but you can go back easily if you let it happen. If I get 5-10 pounds heavier than what I was when I got to my lowest point, I just focus on, it's not hard for me. I drink a lot of protein drinks. I might have mentioned that to Adam around there. I pack probably 24 protein drinks with me when I hit the road for the week. My stomach's a lot smaller, obviously, now. So I drink a lot more water. I used to hate water. I drink water religiously now. I think I used to get my water from my food. The diet, it's a process with this procedure. So, you get a dietitian, they educate you on things you think you know, but you don't know. Carbs, obviously, you have to get rid of them, and I knew that going into it. But yeah, just a lot of those things. Now I can't, I pretty much tell them up front when I order a meal that I'm going to need a to-go box. And, slight changes, nothing major, well worth it. It was definitely a good thing for me. It's not for everybody. And I've heard the horror stories too of people going back, but it worked for me. And, I was just at my wit's end. I had 20 years of all these different yo-yo diets, and I would lose 20-40 pounds and be right back up, where now I've kind of got some control over it. Plus the walking all the time and standing in front of a class all day really, really helps me.
I bet it's really, much easier now.
Yeah, absolutely.
At my heaviest, I was 315 at one point in time, and I took up a lot of space for a while. So and I was still in the field actively, and it was just so hard to get in these little coolers and just do stuff, just to do anything.
I dreaded when I saw stairs. I remember I still, when I go through some airports, still look at a bench and remember, God, I remember when I'd be busting out in a sweat and have to stop there and take a break to catch my connecting flight. And I don't have to do that anymore. I don't stop anywhere I go. And plus, not to mention on the personal side, when we would go on a cruise ship or vacation, whatever we could afford back in the day, I was limited on what I could do with my wife as far as, like she wanted to go see the ruins. Well, the ruins would kill me in 90-degree weather. Go out there. And I'm being honest, I was like, stick my toes in the sand and grab an umbrella drink, and that's where I was at, so now it's allowed me to do a lot more things I wanted to do,
and all that just to say, like, this trade beats your body up enough. Like, take care of yourself out there, guys. Like, eat a little bit healthier. Maybe drink so many beers. Do some stretches, do a little bit of exercising. You're going to be in this for a while. Is that you, Chris?
I do that with my son now.
I know it's Adam.
What is that, Adam? Effects. What is Adam doing over there?
His sound effects of fat people breathing heavy.
So, hey, now
I was like, I'm not at Walmart, am I?
I'm like, what is that? What is going on here?
So changing the subject one more time for you. So Don, you made it through Emerson. You were like, you've come to like become like this famous instructor figure, right? Through Emerson, and now you're at Chemours, right? You are well known across the industry, and you are now venturing into like what's your goal? Like, do you have any more goals you want to conquer?
That's a great question, and I've just kind of followed where life has led me. I really don't have an agenda. I mean, even when I started doing those videos and set up that Facebook page, quite honestly, I got bored in the office. They shut us down for about 6 weeks during COVID. And so everything I do is kind of spontaneous. I really don't have, people ask me, where do you see yourself in 5, 10 years? I don't even really know what that looks like. I just know right now, like I told you earlier, I'm trying to give back as much as I can right now. I know that sounds weird, but someone took the time to show me something, 30 some years ago. And as I mentioned to you earlier, I volunteered to do some free stuff for a local school here that will be starting at the end of June. And it's a 20-hour program I'm going to help with on compressors and fundamentals and those kind of things. And the people that are going to benefit from that are the contractors that already have warm bodies, if you will, in the field that couldn't afford or didn't get a proper education or introduction to that. They don't have the finances or whatever. So that's just getting started, and I'm really excited about that. And so I'm just, like a lot of people that are following you in the chat room, including everyone that's on this, I'm a big advocate of, getting people in the trades and trying to get as many people, including like women, females. I'm a big advocate of that, a big fan of women of HVACR. And but where I see myself, I don't know, Adam. I mean, a lot of people say, are you going to be a consultant one day? I know a lot of my friends like Trevor and different ones have broke out and done their own gig and everything. But right now I'm really content with what I'm doing. I do get bored easy. So if I get bored, like in a couple, 3 years, if I make a change, I'm not really a job jumper. It just, when I get bored, my mind is such, I got to try to challenge myself with something else, if you will.
Nice.
Well, I mean, awesome. We're always taking resumes here at the HVAC Overtime.
We are always trying to fill the fourth person because we don't like the fourth guy. So,
Ooh, that was rough, Chris. God.
I'm just messing with him.
Man.
He's not in the chat, so he'll tell me tomorrow.
He probably is. I know his girlfriend's watching. But Don, I posted you have a Facebook group you started. You also have a YouTube channel. Do you think you see yourself posting more video content in the near future?
Yeah, I'm going to do that. And I don't know if you and I talked about that already, but I'm going to do that. Originally, like I said, when I first did the first one, I think I did a 2-minute thing on compression ratio or something just silly that came to mind. And I thought, man, I got to be teaching, and Brian Orr and a couple other people like yourselves, just, people that I really admire, like text me or something and said, God, I hope this is the start of something you're going to continue to do. And Ty Brannaman, all those guys are doing a great job with it. But yeah, I am going to start doing more of that, and just releasing some things out on YouTube channel, and also on the Fun Fact video and wherever else they might go. Because you have all this stuff in your head, and it's like, you know, as much as you don't want to like come off like you're all that in a bag of chips, it's like it's a shame for you not to share that with other people that may not know that. Because the world Chris lives in, Bill lives in, Adam lives in, you guys know what you're doing every day, but you'd be surprised how many people don't. What you take for granted of knowing, not everybody knows that. So it's always interesting when you share something with them, like, I didn't know that. Like Bill shared with me about that. What was that terminology used, Bill, about the mini split blood breaking up the diesel? Yeah, I never heard that before. So
yeah,
he made it up.
Yeah, I just sometimes just put words together.
Full of a lot of nonsense.
He likes to talk about explosions when we have the A2L guy on the show.
Yeah, I get excited and make explosions. If you know
Don,
what I'm saying.
When you were coming up in the industry, did you have people that were afraid to share their knowledge? Did you have coworkers and mentors of yours?
Yes. So fun, quick story. So when I started, I started back when we didn't even have the pagers. I'm really showing my age now. So we had a little toggle switch in the bottom of the van, and we had CB radios, and your truck had a number, and you called base, okay, and then the fancy guys, the higher level guys.
Wait, did you have like cool like names and stuff like Bandit, Smoke Show, and
no, we didn't, but we should have, No, it was some boring number like 54 or 33 or whatever. So, and then what really cool is you had this toggle switch that when you're working outside, this was like really high tech back in the day. They had speakers like the utility trucks do, and you could hear them blast your, wanting to get a hold of you out in the job site or whatever. So,
got it.
So anyways, fast forward to the Nextel area, still a long ways ago. I had a service manager similar to you, Bill, the story you told earlier, but he was, God, I hope he's not listening to this. He wasn't real energetic. Let's put it that way. He's
probably not listening.
And when it got really, really hot out, he too was a little on the lazy side. So this is my big break right here, because prior to that, none of the elders would tell you anything, because if they were fearful, in my opinion, now looking back, that if you knew what they knew, their value wasn't worth anything anymore. So it was really kind of a secret good old boy club, in my opinion. So anyways, I have this job. I'm just a service tech. I'm out there running calls, and I start doing preventive maintenance real heavily. And this guy, I notice immediately, doesn't like to get out in the sun when it's 80 or 90 degrees or real hot and humid. And he starts walking me through things, troubleshooting stuff by Nextel. And that's how I really got my big break, honestly. This is way before videos and smartphones and YouTube videos. But that was really my window of opportunity. Like, okay, he doesn't know it. And I'm not trying to be sneaky about it. He's teaching me, and because he doesn't want to do it, but it worked out well for me because I can retain things really well.
Yeah. I've heard the stories, and I experienced a little bit of it, but it was kind of moving away from that, of people being afraid to share their knowledge because they were afraid they were going to be replaced, because if they gave their knowledge away, then someone can take their job. And I hear people still talking about this every once in a while today too. I mean, I've had people reach out to me and say, stop. I literally have an email from someone saying, stop making your videos. I paid a lot of money for that knowledge. And it's like, I feel bad for you, but sorry, we need to share more knowledge. The industry we're desperate right now. We really are. We need more people in the industry. And if you have knowledge, this is what I tell people is if you have knowledge and you're a competent person, you're not going to be replaced. You're not. You're fine for the rest of your career as long as you're a good person.
I mean, we have a hard enough time replacing the incompetent people, let alone the competent.
Yes. So I think we need more sharing in the industry. This is going to be one of the only ways, especially with a new generation of people coming in. We need them. So it's like, we got to share. We got to get them to the level we need them to be as fast as possible. They don't need to go through 15, 20 years, 30 years of working to get the experience, like, let's get them started now. So
yeah, we can bypass the whole learning the hard way sort of deal.
learn from other people's mistakes.
All those years of like banging your head on stuff and just sitting up on a roof in the blistering sun, reading a manual, trying to figure it out.
And the interesting thing is if with my customer base, they'll drop you like that now. Like you can't get away with things. And then when I mean get away, I would never try to rip someone off. But in the past, I learned from a lot of mistakes that I made on the same pieces of equipment because I couldn't figure it out. And then finally I figured it out. And then you learned. But the customers tolerated that. As long as we weren't overcharging them and stuff, they tolerated that. But today, they don't. You're done. So you got to be on your game. So the only way we're going to get there is by sharing.
A little bit of a side rant here. I think I want to throw this out here too. Not only did I learn from YouTube, but the way I learned this trade was I was hired in at a franchise. They owned like 120 Wendy's restaurants, right? And I was basically given a van full of inventory and tools, and they're like, just go fix stuff. And I had a unique opportunity to look at it, try to figure it out. I had the parts with me. I put them on. Well, that didn't work. Well, let me see. I got this other part. And I wasn't always just throwing parts at stuff, but I was in it's like I said, a unique position to just keep just banging away at it till I figured it out. I'm like, oh, finally this worked. Why did this part do this? And the other one didn't fix it, and it was, I know a lot of people can't just learn that way because it's a very costly way to learn, very inefficient, and I probably bankrupted the company, but it was such a fantastic way to learn, in my opinion.
I wish like customers won't let you get away with that, so that's our thing. Sorry to cut you off there, Don.
Yeah, that's all right. Something I was going to share with you guys that I think we all do or have done. I know I did it. Another trick I had, I don't know if it was a trick in the learning process. I was the guy that once they saw that I had a little talent early years, they were sending me out on projects that, only a couple people maybe in the shop could figure out. True story. Before LED lights and all that stuff, and big rooftop units, old trains and what have you. And I'd get out there, and not that it's brain surgery, but the rooftop had all these same units. So I would go to the unit that was working, and I know you all have done this, I'm sure, before, and just use my voltmeter and say, okay, that's where we're losing it. It's right there. And so that's another way
they would be back at the shop like, this guy's a fucking genius.
Yeah. No, I've totally done that too. I have totally done that.
Yeah. I'm very transparent about it. I'm okay with, I told my son for years, one time he said, man, you really know quite a bit. I said, Donnie, he's, like I said, he's a licensed contractor too. And I said, I've made the mistake so many times. I just know how to do it right. That's really what it's all about. It's so true though. I mean, those late nights are the ones that you'd never forget.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the industry it's interesting because we have a lot of really interesting tech coming into the industry. I wish we had a little more time to be able to slowly learn this stuff, but we got to hit the ground running here with all this new technology. So
yeah, not only do we have like an influx of new technology coming in, we don't have an influx of new technicians coming in. So we got to like hurry up, teach them the basics, and then like bang in all this other new information that's just spewing out every single day.
Yeah. But it's fun. I strangely, I enjoy it. I do, it's just a weird, I don't know. We're all different types of people, and
we're all on the spectrum.
We sure are in some way.
As our good buddy, Big Clive often points out, we're all somewhere on the spectrum.
Whoops. That was the wrong button.
It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing.
Well, I think that it is time we wrap this up. I think
real quick before we go, hey Don, any chance you can still get me a tour of the Copeland factory in Ohio?
I wouldn't be surprised if they let me. I don't want to, so like they're really, really nice to me. So even at ESCO, like they reached out to me and asked if I could meet with a couple of their engineers about A2L compressors and talk. So my wife, one night after Adam and I and Chris Hughes, we had dinner with them too. And so we're going to do a joint podcast with Jennifer Bush and different things at the colleges locally. So I could probably get a tour. I'm not
go ahead
sure.
And pencil that in about.
Hopefully I didn't leave. Hopefully I didn't leave. I think I left on good terms, but we'll see. So yeah,
I guess we'll find out when we start pulling some strings, won't we?
Well, right on.
Oh, Bill.
Well, this has been a good time, Don, and we really do appreciate you coming on. Hopefully we can have you again some other time, and Maybe Joe will be there then,
Possibly.
We'll have to see.
And the only thing now is, since we're not capable of using the outro anymore, like the awkward spot, how do we end it? Bill, take us out, will you?
I didn't really have anything written down for the outro. You just found the most downloaded HVAC entertainment podcast in the world. Welcome to the HVAC Overtime Show, guys. I'm your host, Bill Russell. Chris Stevens over here to my right, Adam Muffich, and this is Don Gillis. Let's get into it, guys.